You may call your next witness.
The people call Detective Alton Reed.
Good morning. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do so swear.
Please be seated. Tell us your full name for the record and spell your first, middle, and last names.
Alton Berdine Reed, Alton Berdine, Reed, Reed.
Ms. Pearson, you may proceed.
Detective Reed, who do you work for?
The Aurora Police Department,
How long have you worked for them?
12 years.
What do your duties consist of?
I am currently a detective in the Major Crime Homicide Unit.
Were you working at the Aurora Police Department on July 23rd of 2012?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And on that day, were you asked to respond to the University of Colorado Anschutz campus?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you go there?
There was a report of a suspicious package that had been mailed to Dr. Fenton, allegedly from Mr. Holmes.
What was your role when you got to the Anschutz campus?
Primarily, I was there to collect the package if one was found.
Was a package located?
Yes, ma'am, there was, in building 1945 Wheeling Street.
Was that the mailroom?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
When you first got to the mailroom, where was the package?
The package was located, this is just observation through the bomb squad robot camera. It was leaned up against one of the workstations inside of the mailroom.
Were you present while it was being looked at by the bomb squad?
Via closed-circuit camera, yes, ma'am.
After it had been cleared by the bomb squad, and it's correct that nothing hazardous was found in the package?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Were you put in charge of keeping track of it?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Where was the package put?
It was laid on the tabletop of that same workbench that I saw it against, it looked like.
At that time, what was it contained in? What could you see?
There was a like 12 by 16 padded envelope inside of a larger, it would be like a giant Ziploc bag.
Could you see currency in it?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was the currency?
There was some burnt currency inside of the plastic bag itself, and then you could see some outside of the notebook, kind of protruding from the notebook.
Was the currency left with the package?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that APD policy?
When we enter currency into property policies to separate the currency and enter it individually from any other evidence.
So ultimately, it would be separated from the notebook?
Correct, ma'am, once it got back to the property facility.
How long did you stay at the Anschutz Center at CU with the notebook and all of the package contents?
I was relieved about 18:30, so 6:30 p.m., and I started with the package maybe about 1:30 or so p.m.
Who was present at the time that you left?
From our department officers, Sandra Moreno and Merle Moriarty.
Did they arrive to relieve you?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And then you understood that they would stay with the package?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Cross-examination, Mr. King.
Just one question. Detective, do you recall when you were first went to CU that you underwent some kind of a briefing where you were informed what you were looking for there and what the purpose was for you being there?
Yes, sir. When I first arrived, they had found a package inside Building 500 on the campus there, which is 13,001 East 17th Avenue. It's the old hospital. and they were looking for a package in there. They said that Mr. Holmes had mailed something to Dr. Fenton, and they had found a package inside of her office that they thought was suspicious.
And as it turns out, that was not the package you were looking for, right?
That's correct, sir.
The reason that you knew or had information that there may have been a package mailed to Dr. Fenton was, to your understanding, that a lawyer for Mr. Holmes had contacted law enforcement and informed them that there was, in fact, a package that you should be looking for, correct?
I believe so. Chief Abraham gave the briefing there. He said that somebody representing himself as a lawyer for Mr. Holmes had called the CU and told them that he had mailed a package to Dr. Fenton, and they wanted to collect that package.
Thank you. No other questions.
Is there any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from his subpoena.
You may be released, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, thank you, sir. Call your next witness, please.
Jacqueline Fry.
Good morning. Could I have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right, please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name for the record, and please spell your first, middle, and last names?
Jacqueline Marie Fry, Jacqueline, Marie, Marie, Fry, Fry.
Ms. Tish-McGuire, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Morning.
Were you at the Century 16 movie theater on July 19th of 2012 in Aurora, Colorado?
Yes, I was.
Did that go into the early morning hours of July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it did.
Could you please tell the jury a little bit about what you remember from the day of July 19th?
I was working at Red Robin in Aurora. I had worked a double, and it was my friend Alex Sullivan's birthday, and a couple of my friends, my coworkers from Red Robin, were going to go to the movies that night to see the Batman movie, and I had no plans of going. I hadn't bought a ticket, and I was working a lot. And then one of my friends, my coworkers, convinced me to go, and they had an extra ticket for me, so I decided to go to the movie. I remember. I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Who did you go to the movie with that night?
I drove in a car with Chelsea Soblik and with Heather
And what's Heather's last name, if you know it?
Snyder.
What time did you get to the movie theater that night?
I want to say around 10:30, maybe. 10. I don't honestly even know what time the movie started. So, but we got there a little bit later than the rest of our coworkers.
What do you remember doing when you got to the movie theater that night?
I went in. They had already sat down. There was a couple of seat switches. I remember originally sitting in one spot and then switching seats with my friend Alex Sullivan. Sorry. I'm sorry, excuse me. I remember going outside to smoke cigarettes. It was just a normal night, you know. And then I do remember when the previews for the movie started, we were all sitting down, and my friend Alex was really excited for the movie, and he did kind of a countdown. And I kind of remember being, well, now, not really realizing that what we were counting down to. And that's basically it.
What happened during the movie that night?
I remember the scene on the screen. Anne Hathaway had just stolen something, and I heard this hissing noise like an aerosol can, and from where I was sitting, it was coming from the bottom left corner of the movie theater. I remember hearing somebody, because I never saw it. I just heard it. And I remember somebody from that area scream or yell, "What the F?" We're trying to watch a movie. And then the next thing I know, I heard this very loud bang, and I immediately was hit in the legs. And my friend Heather, sitting next to me, was also, I assume, hit by the same round because she yelled out. And then I got down on the ground.
What happened as you got down on the ground?
As I got down on the ground, somewhere between sitting and getting down on the ground, I was hit in the face with another round, and I don't really remember. I do remember laying on the ground and spitting out teeth and blood, and my 4 front teeth were shattered. And I was laying on the ground, and it kind of went, we were all just kind of mangled up on the floor. And sorry. And I remember kind of laying on my side, and I was laying on my legs, which were in a lot of pain, so I tried to sit up to fix them, and when I sat up, I saw flashes from the gun go off, and it was then that I realized that it wasn't fireworks, and it was a gun. I remember Chelsea pulling me back down and telling me to be quiet, and she was on the phone with the police, and she was trying to tie something around my legs to stop the bleeding, and then I remember laying on my side, and a bullet came through the seats, and it skimmed my back, and I was laying like on my stomach, and it came through, so I switched over, and I laid on my side.
And can you describe for the jury what your body position was like at that point in time when you had moved?
Yeah, I was laying kind of facing the screen on my side, and my legs were closer to the aisle seat, actually this aisle, and my head was facing that way.
So your head was closer to the left aisle if you're facing the screen, and
Yes.
your legs. And who were your legs closest to?
My legs were closest to Heather Snyder, and I remember kicking her in the hand when I was trying to like get comfortable, and my head was like laying on top of Chelsea and on top of my friend Sully's legs.
Could you hear anything in the theater?
Yeah, when we first laid down on the ground, it was really loud. There was a lot of loud bangs. I would have gunshots, and there was a lot of screaming. People were running out, and then within a couple seconds, it got kind of quiet, and the only thing you could really hear were the gunshots.
Could you smell anything in the theater that night?
Yeah, I smelt my own skin, like the burning from the gunshots. I smelled blood and sulfur and smoke. It was pretty prominent.
What were you thinking?
That we were gonna die. It was kind of overwhelming. It kind of still is. And I just kind of remember thinking that those were the last.
Objection, Judge 403 at this point.
Sustained. Next question, please.
What do you remember after lying on the floor, hearing the gunshots?
Eventually the lights did come on. I'm not sure at what point. There was like a faint alarm sound in the background. I'm not sure at what point that went on either. My friend's Chelsea was standing up and she was yelling that we needed help. And there were officers in the theater. And they came running up the stairs. There was an overwhelming amount of like change in what was happening. My friend Chelsea and Edgar were ushered out of the theater. They were not as badly injured. Chelsea wasn't hit, and Edgar just had a small wound. And then I remember being placed from the floor onto the chair, and they wanted me to leave, and I didn't want to leave yet. I kind of was a little too overwhelmed to leave.
What could you observe about your friend's injuries while you were sitting in that chair?
In the front of me there were two girls, both lying presumably dead in their own in blood in a pool of blood, and then to my left was to my left was I'm sorry. My friend Alex Sullivan, and he wasn't moving, and his chest wasn't moving either.
Had you done anything to see if he would respond to you?
Yeah, when I was still laying on the ground when the lights were turned off, right after Chelsea and Edgar had gotten ushered out of the theater, I tried to shake him and tell him the cops were here, but he was unresponsive.
Could you observe anything about your friend Ferris Dugnani's injuries?
Yeah, but not just then. A male officer finally came up to me and told me that I had to be taken out the theater. So he lifted me and he passed me over the seat to a female officer who then walked me back over to the aisle, the right aisle. And as she was carrying me down, we kind of had to step over my friend Farah. And I looked down, and her stomach was like blown open, and I remember seeing officers trying to.
Objection, Judge 403 at this point. It's cumulative.
Sustained.
Did you observe any other injuries as you were taken out of the theater?
Yeah, I got taken out the back door. I was laid on the sidewalk next to my friend Heather, whose hand was, her fingers were blown off.
Your Honor, at this time, with the court's permission, I'd like to ask Ms. Fry to approach the 3D diagram model
Yes.
with me. Thanks. And if you could grab that cordless microphone that's up there, please, Ms. Fry. And if you turn that on for me, thanks. If you could please show the jury where you were seated that night.
I would have to say. Oh, I'm sorry.
And if you could stand a little bit closer to. Thanks.
Sure. Probably right around this area right here.
All right, and do you recall approximately where you were seated?
I would think, let's see, probably right in these two rows, right in these two seats. I do remember the order was, I think I remember the order was Edgar, and then my friend Alex, and then my friend Chelsea, me, Heather, and then Farah.
Could you please show the jury on this model where you saw that canister?
I
you heard it?
I heard it somewhere around this area.
And when you saw flashes, can you describe for the jury where you saw those?
Yeah, they were right over here by the door that he walked in.
And could you actually see a figure walk in that night?
I didn't see anybody walk in. I just saw the flashes.
Right, and can you describe for the jury if you remember where the bodies of those girls were that you saw?
Objection 403.
Sustained.
Right. And could you please describe for the jury your exit path with the police officers?
I was lifted up over the seat and then carried down and out the back door into the sidewalk right here.
And could you please show the jury where you were placed next to Miss Snyder?
If Heather was around here, I was probably right over here.
All right, thank you very much. You can take your seat. Thank you. Just turn that off. Were you eventually transported for medical treatment?
Yes. A female officer approached me and asked if I was okay, and I said that I was just tired. And so they immediately got me into a police car. In the car there was another victim there who was pretty badly injured, but was on the phone and seemed very calm. And we were driven at a pretty incredible speed to University Hospital.
What happened when you got to University Hospital?
I was taken out of the cop car, and I was brought into the hospital, into the ER, and where it was loud, you know. It was pretty apparent that a lot of the victims.
Objection, relevance, 403.
Sustained.
Were you taken into surgery that night?
I was taken into surgery that night. I stayed in the ER for a couple of hours, and then at some point before the next morning, I was taken into surgery.
What did they do during your surgery?
They removed a bullet from under my kneecap on my right leg.
What injuries did you sustain as a result of being in the theater on July 20th of 2012? Please tell the jury.
I think we counted altogether about 57 bullets from the shotgun, and about 50 of them were located, still are, in my legs. I have 3 visible shotgun pellets in my arm.
Which arm is that?
That's my right arm. One in my ring finger, one right on my wrist, on the top of my wrist, and one right in the back of my elbow.
And were those your right? Was that your right ring finger and your right wrist as well?
Yes. And then I was also shot. One skimmed my back, and one in my face, and it's still lodged in my cheekbone or my cheek. And it knocked out 4 of my teeth, and it hit my tongue, and then that's it.
What sort of dental surgeries did you have to have as a result of the shooting?
I've had 4.
Relevance.
It goes to the severity of the injuries, and that's consistent with Order C-200.
You can tell.
So just briefly state what the result of the injuries to your mouth were.
Okay. I had 4 teeth extracted, and I had 4 titanium poles put in, and a bone graft, and I still have 4 more surgeries that I have to do.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibits 2556, 2557, and 2558.
Yes.
I have no objection to these exhibits, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, Mr. McGuire, I should ask you first, are you moving their admission?
I am, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, P-TR-2556 through 2558 inclusive are admitted and may be published.
If I could please have 2556. All right, Ms. Fry, if you could tell the jury what we're seeing in this photograph.
That's me. That's my face. And it is on my cheek, the bullet wounds that entered through my cheek. And you can't really see, but the 4 of my teeth were knocked out on the left side.
Okay, could please have 2557.
That is my right arm where the bullets entered.
If I could please have 2558.
That is, the closer one is my right leg, and some of the bullets that, the pellets that entered my right leg, and then in the background is my left leg, and also some of the bullets that entered my left leg.
Do all of these pictures accurately represent the injuries you sustained as a result of the shooting on July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Right. Did you ever see your friend Alex Sullivan again after July 20th of 2012?
No, I didn't.
No further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Is there any cross-examination?
No, thank you.
The jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. Ms. Tish McGuire, may this witness be released from our subpoena?
Please. Thank you, Your Honor.
Without objection.
All right, thank you. Please call your next witness.
Carrie Wu, Your Honor.
come on up. Come around this way, please, and if I could have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Good. All right, please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Carrie Andre Rue, Careyandrerue.
All right, I'll ask you to move the microphone closer to your mouth to make sure we can all hear you. Mr. Orman, you may proceed.
Thank you, sir. What do you do for a living?
I'm a microbiologist with the FBI laboratory.
I want to ask you about some work you did with regards to collecting evidence. In this case, were you involved in the collection of evidence at the defendant's apartment, 1690 Paris Street, number 10, on July 21st of 2012?
Yes, I was.
If you can please explain to the jury what your role was as part of the FBI evidence response team collecting evidence in that apartment.
I was assigned a few rooms of the apartment to collect evidence.
And generally, if you can tell us, where did you collect evidence from?
The bedroom, in the bathroom, and then and a closet in the hallway.
I'd like to start with the closet in the hallway. What kind of closet was this? How would you describe it?
A small closet, maybe like a linen closet.
Your Honor, if we could please put up Exhibit 2399.
That's been previously admitted,
Yes,
Mr. Orman.
it has, Your Honor.
Yes.
Is that the closet that we're talking about?
Yes, it is.
Did you collect any items of evidence from this closet?
Yes, I did.
Let's put up another item that has already been admitted, 2402. What are we looking at there?
It's a type of ammo pouch.
Now, did you collect this?
I did.
And before we look at the actual item, if you could tell us, up at the top there are a couple of things sticking out that look like they're made of plastic. Did you collect those as well?
Yes.
What are those items?
Those are magazines for ammunition,
And for what type of gun?
for a pistol.
A Glock
A Glock,
specifically?
yes. Yeah.
And then down below, there's another pouch that's sort of open. You see what I'm talking about?
I do.
And you can see a little bit of a metallic object in there. Did you collect that as well?
Yes, I did.
What is that?
They're handcuffs.
If you could please put up 2403, please. And does that just show an evidence placard associated with that item?
Yes.
Now, this is hanging on something. What was it hanging on?
On the closet rack.
I'm going to approach the witness, Your Honor, with what has been marked as People's Exhibits 954, 955, 956, and 957.
Okay.
Can you please tell me what those items are?
So those are the items pictured. You have an ammo pouch, the largest item there. You have the 2 magazine for the Glock pistol, and rounds of ammunition that were in the magazines.
And then lastly,
handcuffs.
all right, why don't you put that down? Move to admit, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-954 through 957 inclusive are admitted.
I'd like to ask you about the rounds, the bullets that you mentioned. Those magazines, how many of them were there?
2 magazines in this item that we're discussing.
We'll get to another item in a minute. Let's just talk about this item. When you collected those magazines, were they loaded?
Yes, they were.
And did you remove the bullets from the magazines?
I did.
Do you recall how many you took out?
13 in each.
For a total of 26?
Correct.
If we could go back to 2399, please. Now, on the floor, do you see, can we zoom in on that item that's on the floor at the beginning, at the front? Now, is this the same ammo pouch or is this a different one?
It's a different one.
Did you collect this as well?
Yes, I did.
Now, we can see some different types of objects sticking out of this. Did you collect those?
I did.
And what were they?
Those are magazines.
For same type of gun?
No, a different gun.
Was this be for like an AR-15?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
All right, for what type of gun, do you know?
For a rifle, a type of rifle.
Were they loaded?
They were.
Did you remove rounds from those?
I did.
Do you recall how many?
39 in each.
How many magazines were there?
3, I believe.
Your Honor, I'm going to approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 959.
Okay.
Please take a look at that. Tell me if you recognize that.
I do. It's a different ammo pouch.
Let me ask you this. We saw you saw that item on the floor in the photograph?
Yes.
Does this have any relation to that? In other words, is this that?
This is the one that was on the floor in the closet. Yes.
Move to admit, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-959 is admitted.
Does that also include the magazines that you found?
Yes, it does.
And the bullets?
Yes.
Thank you. You can put that down. I want to ask you about the defendant's bedroom at this point. Can we please put up admitted photo 3959? And can we zoom in on that contact lens case to the left? There we go. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Did you collect that item and put it in evidence?
I did.
And was that then taken to the FBI lab in Virginia?
I'm not certain as to where it was taken. I believe so.
Okay. Was it collected with the other FBI evidence? Yes. Thank you. We can take that down. Lastly, I want to ask you about the bathroom. Did you go into the defendant's bathroom and collect any items of evidence?
Yes, I did.
Tell me about that. What did you collect?
A gas torch.
Can we please put up 2391, which has been admitted? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
And was that on? I mean, was flames coming out of that or anything?
No, it wasn't on.
Was it in that state when you found it?
It was in that state.
And there's sort of a blue bathtub-looking thing behind it. Do you know what that is?
The bathtub.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
I'm going to approach with what's been marked for identification as People's Exhibit 958, Your Honor.
Okay.
Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is that?
It's the torch that I collected in the bathroom.
Thank you. Move to admit, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, it is admitted.
Your Honor, I have no further questions of this witness. I will ask to publish these when the witness steps down from the stand.
Is there any cross-examination?
No.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from his subpoena.
Please, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any objection to that?
No objection.
All right, sir, thank you. The request to publish is granted. Ms. Robinson and Ms. Gerlings, if you would, please. The record should reflect that we just finished publishing the exhibits that were admitted through the last witness. Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, the people call Matt Files.
Morning. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
All right, please be seated. Tell us your full name, please.
Yes, my name is Matthew Ethan Files, and my last name is F-Y-L-E-S.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, we've heard from you previously, and are you one of the supervising case agents on this case from the Aurora Police Department?
That is correct.
And did you become, on July 23rd of 2012, did you become aware of a package that had been sent to a Dr. Lynn Fenton at the Anschutz, CU Medical Center Anschutz campus?
I was.
And was it a return address to the defendant, James Holmes?
That is correct. It had his address that was known.
Did you ultimately respond to the Anschutz campus?
Yes, the initial call to us was a call for an assist, and it referenced that a package involving James Holmes. And so myself and Detective Reed responded over there to see exactly what they needed and what they had.
Detective Reed being Detective Alton Reed?
That's correct.
Did you have Detective Reed stay at the medical center?
Yes, once it became apparent that it was going to take some time, I left him there so that I could address some other issues regarding the case.
Did you ultimately return to take custody of the package?
Yes, some things transpired. I ended up writing in a warrant, and that was part of the process. And then I came back later that night. I arrived at the mailroom at 9 p.m. on the 23rd with the warrant.
When you returned to the mailroom, who was present?
When I arrived at the mailroom, there were two Aurora police officers, uniformed officers, Officer Moriarty and Officer Moreno. They were a two-man car, so they were both present. And then also there was an Officer Dale McCauley with UCPD that was present in the mailroom. Those were the only three parties in the mailroom at that time.
At the time that did you take custody of the package?
Yes, I provided Officer McCauley with the copy of the warrant, and then I took possession of the package that was in the mailroom.
What did it look like at the time that you took it?
So when I entered the mailroom, it was on a workbench in the mailroom. It was one of our brown police evidence bags. It was not sealed. It was open. Inside that bag, it contained a clear plastic evidence envelope or a bag, kind of like a Ziploc bag that was from the Adams County Sheriff's Office. And within that bag were all the contents of the mailed package from James Holmes.
I'm going to hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 341, 342, 343, 344, and 346. Do you recognize all of these items?
I do.
Turning first to People's Exhibit 342. Do you recognize that item specifically?
Yes, for a number of reasons.
And are all of these items ones that you collected at the CU Medical Center in the mailroom on July 23rd of 2012?
Yes, and I know that because of the evidence packaging that's associated with them.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 341, 342, 343, 344, and 346.
Is there any objection?
Judge, I have no objection, but perhaps now is the time for the court to read the limiting instruction.
All right. P-TR-341, 342, 343, 344, and 346 are all admitted without objection. Ms. Pearson, do you agree with the timing of the limiting instruction?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Members of the jury, you're about to hear evidence that the court has admitted only for a limited purpose. You may consider this evidence only as to the issues raised by the defendant's plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. You shall not consider this evidence for any other purpose. All right, you may proceed.
Turning first to People's Exhibit 342, could you hold that up and explain what that is?
Yes, this is the envelope that the package was mailed in. It's a United States Postal envelope bubble wrap that has the addresses in question and postage on it as well.
And can you hold it up so we could see it better? Then I'm going to ask to take it over to the Elmo. Is it addressed to a particular person?
Yes, the addressee is Lynn Fenton.
And who's the return address? Who sent it?
It has James Holmes with his address, both handwritten, and then a sticker application with the address as well.
And if I could publish that on the Elmo, Your Honor.
Yes, go ahead.
And if we could first show the to, who it's addressed to. Could you read for us the address?
Yes, the address is CU Anschutz Medical Campus, mail stop A's and Adam 035, Education 2, North Room, number 3208, Aurora, Colorado 80045.
And the to was to Lynn Fenton, MD?
Correct.
Could I see the return address, please, who it was sent from? And could you read that to us, please?
Yes, it says from James Holmes and the address of 1690 Paris Street, number 10, Aurora, Colorado 80018. And then again, there's an affixed address sticker with that information on it as well.
Could we see the stamps, please? And so how many stamps are on this package?
There are 12 stamps on the package.
Are there 16?
I'm sorry, 16, yes.
And is each row different, but each row is the same as everything else in that given row?
Correct. There are 4 different stamps. These are science, members of science. And each row is the same stamp, and then the next row is a different stamp, all the same, and so forth all the way down.
You could take that down. Could you put that back up, please? And could you zoom in on each stamp so we can see what the stamp is, the first one of each row? I don't know if it's possible to read that or not. And you said these are all scientists?
Yes, from different disciplines. This first one here is Maria Mayer, physicist. These are all forever stamps.
The next row?
This is Asia Gray, a botanist. Severo Ochoa, a biochemist, and then Melvin Calvin, a chemist.
And take that down. If you could look next at People's Exhibit 343. And tell us what that is.
Yes, so this is the original envelope that all the materials were in that was from the Adams County bomb squad that they had initially put all the items in after they cleared the package.
And 344?
344 is a sticky note that was located within the contents of the white envelope.
And was that actually in the bubble mailer, that white envelope?
Correct.
And if I could have that for the Elmo too, please. Could you explain to us what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so this is a standard, one of the small sticky notes, and it's got a circle. The number 1 is contained within the circle as well as the infinity sign.
And are you aware of all of the other evidence in this case?
Yes,
Do you recall a calendar in the defendant's apartment?
yes,
Was this symbol also on that calendar?
it was.
Could I have you flip over to the back side of the sticker? Was there writing on the back side of this sticker?
Yes,
What does it say?
it has words written. They are who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Thank you. Turning next to People's Exhibit 346. And if you could hold that up for us and explain what that is.
Yes, so this has been individually packaged, but there are 20 $20 bills of U.S. currency. They're all burned to some degree.
Where were they found?
They were contained within the white envelope. Originally, they were sort of secreted in with the pages of the notebook and were subsequently pulled out during the efforts to determine the package was safe.
And you said there were how many of those?
20 of them, totaling $400.
And then turning to People's Exhibit 341. And what is that?
This envelope contains the brown spiral notebook that was originally within the white envelope mailed to Dr. Fenton.
Now, is this contained in a APD brown paper envelope,
It is?
evidence envelope? And does that reflect how often it's even been opened?
Yes, it has evidence tape for when it's sealed, every time it's opened. This particular item was sealed by me and only been opened by me on various dates for different purposes, and then there's explicit instructions on it as well.
Does it reflect any kind of tampering?
No.
And I would ask for you to open that, and I'll get you some gloves. And if you could take that out and hold that up so the jury could see it. It's a spiral notebook?
Correct.
Your Honor, does the court want to break at this time before we begin discussing the notebook?
Yes, this would be a good breaking point. Thank you. All right, members of the jury, it's time for lunch, so let's go ahead and take our lunch break. Please make sure you abide by all my advisements during the lunch break, but I'll see you back here in approximately an hour and a half. Let's plan to be back at about 1:40, okay? Thank you. The court will be in recess. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom now. And sir, you can go on break. You can go back to your seat. Thank you. Everyone may be seated. Thank you. Let's take up 1081A, People's Exhibit P-TR-1081A. I had a chance to review the emails that are contained as part of this exhibit during the break. Ms. Spengler, have you had a chance to review it?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Do you want to go to the podium or speak from there as long as you're speaking to the microphone? Oh, it looks like you have one. Okay, great.
I do.
Tell me the objection.
Yes, Your Honor. What I'll do first is identify the 3 emails that we are specifically objecting to, and then I have brief argument. The 3 emails that we are specifically objecting to come from the dsherlockb@gmail.com account. And the first stated June 3rd, 2011. The time stamp on that is 10:18 p.m. It's an email exchange between Mr. Holmes and his mother, purports to be. June 21st, 2011 is the second email. That's a 3-page email. There's an email chain, and there's also attachments. So in total, there's 7 documents attached or part of that single email. And again, that's June 21st, 2011 at 12:22 p.m. I'm just giving you the times in case it helps you identify them, Your Honor. Its title is Need to Schedule a Facility Tour. And then the final email, July 25th, 2011, is the date at 12:58 p.m. The title is RE:/euthanasia training. Your Honor, in terms of argument, briefly, I just point out that these 3 emails are remote in time to the events of July 20th. They contain hearsay. Specifically, the June 21st and July 25th emails contain statements from CU administrators. For the most part, they deal with the scheduling of what appears to be required facility tour, as well as a scheduled euthanasia training that I believe is required by the university. These emails involve work with gerbils, the care of the animals at CU, as well as the euthanasia training that Mr. Holmes had to sign up for. And we believe that these serve to highlight the euthanasia of the animals at the university, put less clinically the killing of animals, and it's unnecessary inflammatory. It's unnecessary, and we object under 403 and 401 and due process and Mr. Holmes' right to a reliable sentencing hearing under both the United States and Colorado constitutions, their counterparts.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to respond on behalf of the people?
Your Honor, it sounds like there isn't an objection to the rest of the email, so I'm just going to focus my responses on the ones to which they've objected. The June 3rd, 2011 email is not remote in time as it relates to the relevance of the relationship and the communications that the defendant was having with his mother and his father. In part, what this packet serves to do is to bookend June of 2011 with his latest communications leading up to, I think it's June of 2012, and showing how remarkably similar they are in terms of their content, their length, and how responsive they are to the emails that he receives. The email is titled, "Things We Will Bring Up to You." I think it's pretty clear what the content is, and I think the court, as it has done in the past, is going to give a limiting instruction to the jury that they're only to consider the statements of the defendant as non-hearsay, and that the other statements will only serve to put those statements into context. The June 21st email, Judge, in looking at it and listening to Ms. Spengler, the purpose of this email is to link him to both this account and to the CU account. And it shows that before he started relying exclusively on the CU emails, and what the court will notice is all of a sudden there's a huge gap between roughly June of 2011 and June of 2012. That's when all of his communications, as future evidence will show, took place over CU and some over Hotmail. And so that this is an email that links those two. It's a transitional period for him. Now, having said that, if this is the euthanasia one, if there's the attachment, I'm happy to get rid of the attachment. I'm not looking to highlight this over any other for any sort of euthanasia reason, and if there's a way to redact it to take out that concern, I'm happy to do that, because that's not the function I think that this email shows. It shows the nature of his communications with CU, and it ties him to those two accounts. The third email, Your Honor, is the one dated July 25th, 2011. And here's where I see an issue for us evidentiary-wise. That first part that says, "Hello, James, great," I agree. I think that is likely hearsay, but I don't know that it's offered for the truth of the matter asserted. That's the euthanasia training one. Can I have a moment, Your Honor, just to...
Yes.
You know what, frankly, Your Honor, I don't mind removing that one from the email list. If that's objectionable, I don't have a problem removing that. Unless the court has any other questions, those are my responses to Ms. Spengler's specific objections.
All right, thank you. Give me a moment. All right, that response from Mr. Brockler makes the objection as to the July 25, 2000 email chain moot, because he doesn't have problem taking that out of the exhibit. And so the July 25, 2011 email or email chain related to the euthanasia training should be removed from the exhibit. And with that removal, then that takes care of at least one of the three objections to this exhibit. In terms of the other two objections, let me just first of all say that Exhibit P-TR-1081A does not include all of the emails, as I understand it, and that's consistent with my orders in this case. I issued multiple orders related to warrants and to requests for production of documents, and in multiple of those orders, or in several of those orders, I said that my understanding was that the prosecution was not intending to introduce all of the documents into evidence. And I know that there were documents from a bank, or perhaps more than one bank. I think there were documents requested and obtained from a couple of banking institutions. There were telephone records, there were email records, and with respect to some of those documents, I said that my understanding was the prosecution was only intending to introduce the documents that they believed were relevant to this case, and so that to the extent that the warrant or that the order for the production of documents lacked specificity, only the records that are unrelated to the case should be suppressed. And I think I said in a footnote in multiple orders, if my understanding is incorrect and the prosecution is seeking to introduce all of the records with respect to all these different warrants and orders for production of records, the prosecution should let me know and we'll set a hearing, and the prosecution never notified the court of that. And so I infer from that that the prosecution is only intending to introduce some of the documents that it obtained, and specifically the documents that they believe are relevant to this case. And so that's the first observation. The second observation goes to the objection that was raised by Ms. Spengler just a moment ago in terms of remoteness. I have been pretty consistent throughout this trial in allowing documents only as far back as I think about the spring of 2011. And my rationale for that has been and continues to be that that's the relevant time frame. That's when Mr. Holmes moved from San Diego to Colorado. He moved here to attend school here, and there is a disagreement between the parties in this case in terms of what may have happened or may not have happened as it relates to Mr. Holmes' mental health. The prosecution argues that there was no change in him. The defense argues that at some point in the spring of 2012 that there was a change in Mr. Holmes' mental health. And in fact, that's around the time that there has been some evidence introduced that there was some planning going on of the shooting and of the explosives and incendiary devices that were recovered from his apartment. And so I think in order for the jury to assess those arguments, the jury needs to know what was he like before the spring of 2012. And I think a year time frame is appropriate and is reasonable. And that coincides with the time that he came to Colorado to attend school. That's where it all started. There's an argument that the prosecution has advanced as well in this case to the effect that this incident, including the shooting and the items found in the defendant's apartment, is related to the defendant becoming unhappy with his lack of success at school and with the defendant becoming disappointed in his performance at school, and that in part at least is what triggered what took place here. So again, it goes back to the school. It goes back to that time frame when he started attending school at the University of Colorado, when he moved here from California. And that's at the heart of the matter. This is a case about the defense of insanity. There has been a not guilty by reason of insanity plea entered, and so it goes to that, and it goes as well to the culpable mental state elements of the crimes that are charged. And Of course, it would be improper to just allow all documents related to Mr. Holmes going back to when he was a baby, but I think it's reasonable to allow documents that predate the spring of 2012 for all the reasons that I have stated just now and for all the reasons that I've stated before. And I think starting at about sometime around the spring of 2011 is an appropriate time frame. So I don't agree with the remoteness argument. And these emails go to Mr. Holmes's interactions. The June 3, 2011 email goes to his interaction with his mother. This is an email exchange between Mr. Holmes and his mother. And the experts have talked about Mr. Holmes's interactions with people. I know that Dr. Metzner talked about some changes in the defendant in the spring of 2012. And again, in order for the jury to be in a position to assess those arguments or to assess those findings and those conclusions by some of the experts and the arguments by the parties, I think they need to know what was Mr. Holmes like before the spring of 2012. And that includes how did he communicate? How did he interact with people at school? How did he interact with his parents? And did those things change at some point or not? So I don't agree with the remoteness argument, and I think it's this is relevant. This is a relevant email in terms of the June 3rd, 2011 email, and so it is admissible under Rule 401. In terms of the June 21, 2011 email, that's an email chain related to a required facilities tour. And same type of rationale from me. I think this goes to Mr. Holmes's communication with staff, interaction with people at CU, and I think part of that email chain, if I remember correctly, may have included his mother as well, but let me check, because I may be wrong about that, and I don't want to state that if that's wrong. It does not include his mother, but this is the one where Mr. Brockler mentioned during his argument that it shows the transition to a different email address, and so it has that probative value as well. It shows that at some point around that time frame, he changed from one email address to a different email address, and again, it's within the time period that I have outlined, and it is probative for the reasons that I've stated. It goes to his interactions, it goes to his communication with people, it goes to who he was and the way he acted. And I know that the parties don't agree that those things are necessarily relevant to someone's mental health, but that's part of the disagreement in this case, and ultimately the experts are going to testify about that, and the jury will make the determination as to whether that is any indication of mental health or not, or perhaps a little indicative of mental health, or heavily indicative of mental health. Those are going to be questions for the jury, but it does have probative value, especially considering that at least one of the parties believes that this is proof of mental health, and that some of the experts, I believe, will talk about those things, those aspects of Mr. Holmes's life and Mr. Holmes's behavior and interactions and communication. So in terms of the Rule 403 objection, I have to look at what are the risks. I have found that the two emails are probative for the reasons I've stated. I am not persuaded that there's any risk of unfair prejudice, especially given Mr. Brockler's agreement to delete any mention of euthanasia training. I don't know what would be prejudicial about these emails. I'm not sure what's prejudicial about the email from June 3rd between Mr. Holmes and his mother, or what's prejudicial about the email chain in the June 21, 2011 emails related to the required facilities tour. So, and it sounds like to the extent that there are any attachments to that email, Mr. Holmes is willing to take those out. I mean, Mr. Brockler is willing to take those out. Is that right, Mr. Brockler?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And so without those, I don't see what's prejudicial. I think that was Ms. Spengler's concern, and so that takes care of Ms. Spengler's concern. So for all those reasons, I find that the probative value of these two emails and email chains is not substantially outweighed by the danger for unfair prejudice, or any of the risks that are listed in Rule 403. In terms of the hearsay objections, to the extent that these emails have statements from Mr. Holmes, that they're not hearsay, they're statements, admissions by a party opponent, and they're admissible. Furthermore, they're not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. To the extent that they contain any emails from someone else, including Mr. Holmes's mom and including people from CU, they're not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted, but I'm happy to give the jury a cautionary instruction that these statements by these other folks, including Mr. Holmes's mom, including people from CU, and including anyone else, are being introduced solely to place Mr. Holmes's statements in context. And so if the defense wants me to give that instruction, I will give it. If the defense doesn't want me to give that instruction, I will not. That's been my position throughout the trial. Anytime this issue has come up, I have made the same offer to defense counsel, and I have done what defense counsel has asked the court to do. If the defense wants me to give that cautionary instruction, I give it, and I've done that in the past on at least one occasion. If the defense tells me they prefer not to have me give it, then I don't. So, Ms. Spengler, are you asking me to give an instruction along the lines of what I just indicated right now in terms of this particular exhibit?
Yes, please.
All right, I will give that instruction. All right, is there anything else at this time?
Your Honor, only to advise the court of the procedure I was hoping to use once we get the witness on to get these admitted. I had intended to make the 24 copies, and I'll make an extra one for the court and publish it in the same manner we discussed as with the notebook, if the court is amenable to that.
You mean in terms of these emails?
Yes, sir.
All right, what's the defense's position as to that? Yes.
Your Honor, we'd object to that procedure.
Mr. Bruckler, what about just stop displaying them on the screen? What's the concern with doing it that way? That's sort of the way we've been doing it.
Your Honor, I don't think it was a question of concern. It was a question of, because of the varying volumes of words that are on each of the pages, to know how long to display it up there for these folks to be able to read it. I mean, how do we know when to say, all right, move to the next email, move to the next email? There are some pictures that were attached that the defendant sent to himself that are directly related to this, and we could definitely publish those that way. But in terms of the written content, it would just be hard to know when the jury's good to go with moving to the next email.
Are you going to have 24 packets of this that are identical to the original? In other words, are they going to be color photographs just the same as the original?
Yes, Your Honor, we intend them to be identical to the original.
All right. As long as that's the case, I'll allow it for purposes of just publishing it to the jury, because I think it'll be much more efficient to do it that way. But I'm not going to allow that someone read it for the jury word for word. So when you're ready to publish it, let me know. We'll distribute the 24 copies. Each juror can have their own copy, and then have each juror go through it on their own. But otherwise, if I didn't do that, it would mean that we'd be required to give each juror a single copy, or we'd have to use one single copy with all 24 jurors and have each one pass it one by one, and that's going to take way much more time. So I'll allow you to do it that way, as long as they're all identical copies.
Yes, sir. And one last thing, my hope was to publish the photographs, because there'll be some questions to the witness via the normal method that we've been doing it. But for certain, there would be 24 identical packets of information like you see up there with the one email removed.
All right, that's fine. You can ask the witness questions, but obviously if you're going to publish them, then I'm hoping that you're not going to go through each email with the witness one by one. That's the whole point of publishing it the way that you're asking to do it. So it's fine if you want to touch upon a few photographs or a few of the emails with the witness, but then I think when we get to the point of publishing, then each juror can just take a look at each copy that, or at his or her copy of the exhibit, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, and then we will retrieve the exhibits once the jury has finished reviewing it. All right, is there anything else on behalf of the people? All right. Before I forget, though, Mr. Rockler, just make sure that all of them are identical. I'll give this back to you. So to the extent you're going to remove the attachment of the one email, the attachment from the June 21 email, and also are going to remove the July 25 email and attachments, then make sure that the same is true for all the copies. All right? Okay, thank you. Ms. Tisch-McGuire?
Your Honor, I just wanted to let the court know that I had inadvertent contact with a juror on Friday afternoon after work at like 5:45. I went into a store and juror number 329 was in the store. I didn't notice her. As soon as she recognized me, she paid and left the store. We didn't speak to each other or anything else, but I just wanted to let the court know.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything on behalf of the defense at this time? No. All right, thank you. Enjoy your lunch. I'll see you back after lunch. The court will be in recess.
Please rise.